Blood spreads across the floor of a small room in the administrative wing. Two bodies lie motionless. Officer Malik stands frozen, his gun still aimed at Marcus, who kneels with blood-stained hands. In the corner, a security camera captures the horrific scene. "I just wanted to talk," Marcus whispers. Partner Shadow, close at his side. The young officer next to him shakes his head. Another crime of passion. "Maybe," Holloway replies, "or maybe there's more to it." He studies the pool of blood intently. "I've been investigating this prison for too long. Nothing is ever simple at Riverdale Private Correctional Center." Marcus Dayton, 29, serving 7 years for armed robbery. The officer reads from the file. "Odd thing is, he had no prior record, even has a college degree." Holloway raises an eyebrow. What drives a man with no criminal history to commit such a serious offense? The warm voice of a reporter comes through the radio. "Today we're exploring one of the most shocking cases to rock the private prison system, the Riverdale Massacre. I'm Alexandra Reynolds with Crime and Justice Files." In early 2016, a double homicide occurred at Riverdale Private Correctional Center. The perpetrator, Marcus Dayton. The victims, his wife, Alicia Dayton, and prison warden Richard Carter. What appeared to be a simple case of jealousy led to the discovery of one of the biggest scandals in the modern justice system. "I always knew he'd snap," prison guard Wilson tells the reporter. But nobody listened. Holloway shakes his head. "That's the first lie. Records show Dayton was a model inmate." Today we'll take you on a journey to uncover the truth behind prison walls. We've interviewed the only person Marcus trusted inside, Dominic Gaines, released last year, and Detective Jake Holloway, who discovered the disturbing truth behind the case. This isn't just the story of a desperate man. It's the story of a system that transformed a law-abiding citizen into a killer, and how that system continues to operate even now. In the interrogation room, Dominic looks directly into the camera. Marcus wasn't a criminal, not at first. In prison, he was just trying to survive. But when he discovered what Carter was doing with his wife, Dominic pauses, his eyes distant. No man could stay rational facing that. Dominic speaks into the reporter's microphone. "Marcus always wore this cheap plastic wedding ring. Every day he'd clean it carefully. One day I asked why he treasured it so much, and he said, 'Because Alicia cried when she put it on my finger. Only people who truly love each other understand that.'" Detective Holloway opens a file, taking out a photograph. A young couple smiles hand in hand, standing in front of a small house. "Marcus and Alicia Dayton," he explains. "They met in college. She studied nursing, he was an engineering student. Both came from struggling families in South Chicago. Rent's going up 50%. Marcus stands before the real estate agent. "We just signed the lease." The man shrugs. "Building has new owners. You know how the market is." On his way home, Marcus finds a BMW blocking his parking spot. After graduation, they got married and tried to build a life. Holloway continues. Marcus found work at a local engineering firm with a modest salary. Alicia worked part-time as a nurse at a clinic. They rented a small apartment in an up-and-coming area of the city. But then instability began. In 2015, a wave of real estate investment flooded their neighborhood. Rent skyrocketed. The company where Marcus worked was acquired, and he was laid off. Alicia sobs, "I lost my job, the clinic's closing." Marcus holds her tight. "We'll be okay." But when she goes to the bathroom, he sits at the table, his hands trembling, as he calculates monthly expenses, rent, car payments, credit cards, insurance, total costs, double his current income. Over 6 months, Marcus applied to 47 companies, Holloway says. He got 3 interviews and no offers. Alicia was looking for work too, but nothing stable. They started using credit cards to cover basic expenses. Dominic shakes his head. That's the story of millions of Americans, especially young people of color like us. You do everything right, education, hard work, stay out of trouble, but the system can still crush you. One small accident, one layoff, and you're in free fall. Marcus stares at the eviction notice. 30 days to vacate. A quick loan advertisement flashes on his phone screen. Cash now, no credit check. Alicia calls from the hospital. "I have good news and bad news. The good news is I got a job, unpaid internship at Mercy Hospital. The bad news, I don't know how to tell you this. One late December night in 2015, everything reached a breaking point. They received notice they'd be evicted from their apartment in 30 days if they didn't pay the accumulated debt. At the same time, Alicia discovered she was 2 months pregnant. That was the decisive moment, Dominic says. With a child on the way, Marcus didn't have time to wait for the system to work anymore. He needed money immediately. "Let me tell you about this opportunity," Wayne Marcus's old college friend says excitedly. "Just one night, Marcus. Oakwood Mall, 10 minutes in and out. That jewelry store is fully insured. Nobody gets hurt. We just take enough to start over." Marcus shakes his head, but Wayne pushes an ultrasound image toward him. "What about your kid? It needs a home." Marcus met with Wayne, an old college friend with a minor criminal record. Wayne proposed a plan: rob a small jewelry store at a suburban mall. According to Wayne's later testimony, Holloway says, they planned for 2 weeks. Marcus researched security cameras, police response times, even employee schedules. He approached it like an engineering project. Dominic sighs. But Marcus wasn't a robber. That's the difference. A real criminal understands that things always change in action. Marcus thought if he had a perfect plan, everything would play out like in the movies. A gunshot rings out in the mall. "Nobody move!" Wayne shouts, waving the gun. Marcus, wearing a ski mask, stands frozen. This wasn't the plan. No one was supposed to fire a weapon. No one was supposed to get hurt. For a moment, he meets the eyes of the cashier, an older woman trembling. His hands begin to sweat inside the rubber gloves. The robbery took place on a January evening in 2016. According to the plan, they would enter the store before closing, subdue, the employees take jewelry from the display cases, then disappear within 10 minutes. But things went wrong from the start, Holloway recounts. Wayne fired a shot into the ceiling, something Marcus didn't know about beforehand. This triggered the alarm system and attracted attention. A security guard nearby responded. When the security guard entered the store, Wayne panicked. He pointed the gun at the security guard. Marcus, seeing the situation about to turn violent, acted on instinct. Marcus struggles with Wayne trying to lower the gun. "You promised no one would get hurt," he shouts. In the struggle, the gun goes off. The bullet lodges in the wall right next to the security guard. The guard draws his weapon. Police freeze. Marcus freezes. Wayne pushes him away and runs. Before Marcus can get his bearings, he hears handcuffs locking around his wrists. Marcus was trying to stop Wayne from shooting the security guard, Dominic explains. But on the surveillance footage, it looked like he was trying to take the gun to shoot. Wayne successfully escaped, leaving Marcus at the scene. Holloway nods. And Wayne disappeared from the city right after. We didn't find him for months, so Marcus faced all the charges: armed robbery, assault, use of a weapon during a crime conspiracy. You have one choice. The prosecutor says, not looking up from the file. Plead guilty and take 7 years, or go to trial and face potentially 25 years. Why? Marcus stares at the ultrasound on the table. My wife is pregnant. The prosecutor sighs. Honestly, you won't serve the full 7 years. Good behavior, early release. Maybe 4.55 years. The child will still be young when you return. Marcus met with his court-appointed lawyer and learned his case didn't look good. Without Wayne to testify, plus the ambiguous surveillance footage, all evidence was against him. His lawyer advised him to plead guilty for a reduced sentence, Holloway says. With a pregnant wife and no money for a private attorney, it was Marcus's only option. This moment marked the detective's mind. I remember looking at his file. No prior record. Engineering degree, wife a nurse. They weren't the type of people we usually see in the system, but one desperate decision changed everything. Riverdale Private Correctional Center, the officer says, as the prison transport stops before the high walls. Heard it's pretty bad. Built to house 800 inmates, currently has over 1,200. Marcus looks out the window as the iron gate closes behind him. A sign reads, Managed by Correct Life, Inc., M. Private Partner, Injustice. Marcus was sentenced to 7 years and transferred to Riverdale Private Correctional Center, 70 miles west of Chicago. Riverdale was one of the first fully privatized facilities in the state, Holloway explains. Correct Life Inc. ran it on minimal budgets. They profited by keeping costs low and inmate numbers high. Dominic laughs bitterly. That's the fancy way of saying an overcrowded, understaffed prison where corruption became the only way to survive. Welcome to Riverdale. Warden Carter smiles at the group of new inmates. Tall, imposing, with meticulously groomed silver hair, he looks more like a politician than a prison administrator. There are two types of inmates here, those who understand the system and those who get crushed by it. His eyes linger on Marcus for a second. Choose wisely. Richard Carter, the warden of Riverdale, had been running the facility for 15 years. As the CEO of the company operating the prison, he not only had absolute power within the prison walls, but also personal profit incentives. Carter was a remarkable character, Holloway comments. Graduated from a second-tier law school, never practiced. Instead, he joined the private prison industry when it was in its infancy. A businessman more than a reformer. Dominic stares at his hands. That man, he thought the prison was his personal kingdom. And, in a way, it was. Nobody supervised him. The oversight board only cared about profits, not conditions. State inspectors only came when given advance notice. Harsh lights, constant noise air, thick with sweat and industrial cleaners. Marcus is led to his cell, an 8,000-foot space designed for one person, but now containing 2 bunks. On the top bunk, an older man reads a book. Dominic Gaines. The man introduces himself without looking up. First rule, never stare at Carter. Second rule, never trust anyone in uniform. Marcus quickly learned the realities of prison life. Riverdale operated with 2 systems of law, the official rules on paper and the unwritten rules of survival. For someone with no prior experience, it was like falling into another world, Dominic explains. Marcus was shocked by everything, the violence, the loneliness, the loss of dignity. But the worst was the fear for Alicia. Dominic Gaines, Marcus's cellmate, became his important companion. An older man with a 20-year sentence for drug-related charges, Dominic understood how the system worked. I've been here long enough to see many wardens come and go, Dominic says quietly as they eat in the noisy cafeteria. Carter is the worst. He doesn't just profit from us being here, he profits from everything low-quality food, minimal health care, cheap labor contracts. And the rumors about how he treats inmates' wives? Dominic stops as a guard walks by. Be careful what you say about your wife, and who hears it. What Marcus didn't immediately understand, Dominic explains to the reporter, was that Carter didn't just make money from imprisoning inmates. He made money from their desperation. Holloway nods in agreement. Our investigation after the massacre revealed that Carter had established a complex system to profit from every aspect of prison management, from food service contracts with companies owned by his family, to privilege programs for inmates wanting better conditions. I could arrange for you to work in the library, Guard Wilson offers. Quiet, comfortable, away from the gangs. Marcus looks at him suspiciously. What's the price? Wilson smiles. Just $500. Your wife can give the money to my sister on the outside. Marcus thinks about the $450 a month Alicia is trying to survive on. No thanks, he says. Wilson shrugs. Call me when you change your mind. Oh, the laundry gets very hot in summer. While most inmates sought to adapt or affiliate with gangs for protection, Marcus tried to keep a low profile and focus on Alicia. He called her whenever possible, though the extortionate call costs strained her tight budget. Double standards were obvious, Dominic says. Inmates with money or families outside who could pay received different treatment, better jobs, better food, even protection from violence. But Marcus didn't have money. Dayton, the guard shouts. Phone call for you. Marcus's heart pounds as he picks up the receiver. Alicia? Her voice breaks. I got evicted, Marcus. Landlord wouldn't accept the bounce check. I'm in the car. Marcus grips the phone tightly. She's 7 months pregnant, he tells the guard after the call. I need to speak with Warden Carter. The guard laughs. You and 200 others, buddy. Get in line. As Alicia's pregnancy progressed, her financial situation worsened. Evicted from the apartment, she lived in her car for a short period before moving in with a friend. Marcus tried everything he could to help from the inside, Dominic recalls. He worked extra hours in the laundry to earn a few extra dollars a week. He even tried to request a meeting with Carter to discuss the outside work program. Your application has been denied, the guard announces, throwing the paper at Marcus. Outside labor jobs could bring in $15 a day money Alicia desperately needed. But hey, the guard lowers his voice. Carter has some special programs for concerned husbands. Your woman. What does she look like? Marcus stares at him. Never ask about my wife again. This is when Marcus started to notice something was wrong, Dominic recounts. Not just the usual prison corruption. It was a system designed to exploit the specific vulnerabilities of inmates, their concern for loved ones on the outside. Holloway nods. During our investigation, we discovered that Riverdale Center had an unusually high rate of denials for outside labor applications and sentence reductions. This forced inmates to seek alternatives through unofficial channels where Carter and his people could profit. After 9 months in prison, Marcus's first visitation day finally arrives. Through the thick glass, he sees Alicia tired thin with a newborn in her arms. His hand trembles as it touches the glass. She smiles weakly. Meet your father, Isaiah. Marcus's tears flow. I'm sorry, he says. I'm sorry I left you alone. Finally, after 9 months in prison and many denials, Marcus was allowed to see Alicia. The meeting took place in the common visitation room, where a glass barrier separated inmates from visitors. That was the first time he saw his son, Dominic says. A moment that should have been joyful but was tainted by circumstances. Marcus couldn't touch his son, couldn't hug his wife, could only look through the glass. Holloway flips through a few pages in the file. According to reports, the first visit took place in October 2016. The child was born in September. This is information from medical records we gathered after the case. How are things? Marcus asks, trying to keep his voice steady. Alicia smiles weakly. I'm staying at Maria's place, but... She lowers her voice. I can't stay there much longer. Her eyes glance up at the surveillance camera on the wall before continuing. Isaiah needs special medication. The doctor says I need expensive drugs for his immune system. Insurance won't cover it. Marcus feels his heart tighten. I'll find a way, he promises, not knowing how to keep his word. The meeting revealed Alicia's desperate situation. No stable housing, no regular income, and now a child with medical needs. She had been running around begging for help from family friends, but nobody could take in an inmate's wife with a newborn, Dominic explains. Add in the medical bills, and she was at the end of her rope. 2 months later, Alicia returns. Marcus immediately notices the changes: new clothes, professionally styled, hair, a thin gold bracelet on her wrist. That's nice, Marcus says, nodding toward the jewelry. And expensive, she flinches. It's a gift, she answers, then quickly adds, from the girls at work, my birthday. When Alicia returns for a visit in December, Marcus notices suspicious changes. She doesn't look desperate anymore, but something is different. You know, Dominic says, in prison, we're very sensitive to small changes. When someone suddenly has better stuff, it means they've found a sponsor or are doing something shady. Marcus began to worry that Alicia might be going down a dangerous path. Detective Holloway takes out a photo from the file, a thin gold bracelet. The first gift. According to witness testimonies, this was the kind of initial payment Carter typically used. In the visitation room, Alicia is telling about her new job. I'm working weekends at the Blue Moon Bar, she says. Tips are good. When Carter walks past them in the visitation room, he stops. Is that your son Dayton? He asks, looking at the photo. Then he turns to Alicia with a broad smile. You should bring the little guy for us to see soon. His eyes linger on Alicia longer than necessary. Marcus notices his wife doesn't avoid that gaze. In early 2017, Alicia visits with news about a new job at a bar. Marcus knows the place, not the most respectable establishment in the suburbs where customers are often crude to the female servers. You don't have to work there, he says. What do I need, Marcus? Her voice suddenly sounds sharp. What do I need, Marcus? Her voice suddenly sounds sharp. Sit around and cry count days until you return. I have to live somehow. At that moment, Warden Carter walks past them. He nods to Marcus and looks at Alicia with a familiar gaze too familiar. I saw your wife leaving today, Dominic says that evening. Carter personally escorted her to the gate. They were laughing like old friends. Marcus punches the wall and the guard shouts, "One more time, Dayton, and you're in solitary." After the visit, Dominic shares with Marcus what he saw, confirming Marcus's worst fears. He started seeing the signs, Dominic explains. Carter never appears in the common visitation room. That doesn't happen. He has a luxurious office and lets the guards do the dirty work. So him deliberately walking by while Alicia was there was a statement, a way to let Marcus know he had power. Holloway nods. This was part of Carter's pattern. He wanted inmates to know he was approaching their wives. It was about power and control. You know about the White case? An inmate whispers to Marcus during mealtime. He got released 2 years early despite a heavy sentence. His wife became Carter's private secretary. We all know what that means. The prison rumor mill was working overtime. Stories about inmates receiving early pardons or privileges after their wives began working for Carter spread throughout. In prison, rumors are currency, Dominic explains. Some are true, some fabricated. But when the same story gets told over and over about different inmates, you start to wonder. A guard pats Marcus on the shoulder. Your wife is a lucky woman. Carter's family support program is only for select women, those who are pretty young and flexible. His laughter follows Marcus all day. Suspicion had taken root in Marcus's heart. It grew with each passing day, nurtured by guards' innuendos and changes in Alicia's attitude. Carter had created a program called Family Support, Holloway explains. On paper, it aimed to help inmates' families through social services and job opportunities. In reality, it was Carter's way to approach and manipulate vulnerable women. One day, Marcus is transferred to work in the library, a position many inmates dream of. Why me? Marcus asks the guard. Orders from above, he replies. Carter likes you. Marcus feels a chill. Privileges always come with a price. When Marcus began receiving unexplained privileges, he knew something was wrong, especially since he had rejected Carter's earlier offer. That's how Carter played the game, Dominic explains. He wanted Marcus to know these privileges were because of his relationship with Alicia, but he never said it outright. It drove Marcus crazy with uncertainty. Carter summons Marcus to his private office. I have a proposal, he says, leaning forward. Work for me in the library and I can reduce your sentence to 4 years. His eyes are cold as he adds, Alicia will be very happy to know you'll be home sooner. Carter's office looked like that of a successful corporate lawyer. An oak desk, leather chairs, degrees and certificates on the wall. On the desk was a photo of a middle-aged woman, smiling, and 2 teenage boys, a family man, a good father. Dayton. Carter points to the chair opposite him. Sit down. Marcus sits, trying to keep his face neutral. I've reviewed your case. Carter begins flipping through the file. You've been a model inmate. No violations, good reports from the guards. Thank you, sir, Marcus replies mechanically. I have a proposition. Carter continues leaning back in his chair. There's an opening in the library. The work isn't too dusty and conditions are better than in the laundry. That night, Marcus finds a neatly folded piece of paper on his bed. Your wife visits Carter on Mondays and Thursdays. After working hours, check it out. Dominic shakes his head. This could be a trap. The anonymous note pushed Marcus's suspicions to a new level. He didn't know who left it or why, but the information was too specific to ignore. Marcus struggled with the decision whether to investigate or not, Dominic recounts. Part of him didn't want to know. Another part couldn't live with the uncertainty. Marcus decides to investigate. He bribes a guard named James to work in the administration wing on Thursday, the day Alicia typically came for processing. His heart pounds as the clock strikes 6 p.m. and he hears familiar high heels from the corridor. With Dominic's help, Marcus obtained some phone cards and cigarettes, prison currency, to bribe guard James, who occasionally did business with Dominic. I need a job in the admin wing, Marcus says bluntly. I heard they need cleaners. James, young but with the tired eyes of someone who has seen too much dirt, gives him an appraising look. What do you need it for, Dayton? You've got a good spot in the laundry. I need it, Marcus insists. You know Dominic. He vouched for me. James pauses, then nods. All right, but if anything goes wrong, I don't know you. Understand? Your visit has been canceled, a guard announces as Marcus prepares to meet his mother. Warden's orders. That night, an inmate is brutally beaten. You're next, the attacker whispers into Marcus's ear as he passes him in the dining hall. Marcus begins to witness retaliation from Carter. Any privileges he once had are taken away, and he starts experiencing difficulties from other inmates. Carter never did his own dirty work, Dominic explains. He had his people, both guards and inmates. He could make anyone's life miserable without leaving a trace. An inmate is dragged out of the cafeteria, his face bloody. He talked bad about Carter. Someone whispers. Marcus recognizes him as the man who had once tried to warn him. That night, screams from the solitary confinement cell could be heard throughout the block. Violence and threats were part of prison life, but Marcus understood that what was happening around him wasn't random. It was a message, Dominic explains. Carter was letting Marcus know what would happen if he continued investigating. One night, Marcus climbs through the bathroom window to reach the administration wing. At the corner of the hallway, he hears laughter. Carter and Alicia are walking out of the office. "Next week I'll bring Isaiah," she says. "Richard really wants to meet your son." Marcus's pain and anger reached a peak when he accidentally overheard this conversation. That's how Carter operated, Holloway explains. He didn't just want to control Alicia. He wanted to take everything that belonged to Marcus, his wife, his son, his dignity. Marcus knows he needs concrete evidence. The following Thursday, while working in the administration wing, he puts down his bucket and mop and moves toward the door. There's no one in the hallway. The secretary has left, and guards typically don't enter this part of the building after working hours. In the small janitor's closet, Marcus had prepared a makeshift weapon. Over the weeks, he had patiently sharpened a piece of metal from the bunk bed into a small blade small enough to hide in his pant cuff. Dominic had shown him how, though he warned, "This isn't for talking, Marcus. Once you pull it out, there's no going back." Marcus initially wanted to use it only for self-defense, but as he approached Carter's office door, a new anger began forming inside him. Time seems to stand still as Marcus looks through the gap in the door curtain. In the office, Carter sits in his chair, his shirt unbuttoned. Alicia stands in front of him, her hands on his neck. As she leans down to kiss Carter, Marcus has seen enough. With trembling hands, he picks up the bucket and mop and quickly walks down the hallway toward the exit of the administration wing. Only one thought hammers in his head. He has to do something. He has to end this. Back in his cell, Marcus finds Dominic reading an old detective novel. "So," Dominic asks, putting the book down, "did you find what you were looking for?" Marcus nods silently, then sits on the bed and covers his face with his hands. "The note didn't lie," he finally says. "She was there with him." Marcus stares at the closed door. In his mind, images flash Alicia on their wedding day. Alicia laughing at his jokes, Alicia promising to love him forever. And now, Alicia walking into the office of the man who has power over his life without knocking, as if she has every right to do so. Marcus completely broke down after that night, Dominic recounts. He barely talked, didn't eat, didn't sleep. I've seen this happen to other men when they discover their wives cheating, but with Marcus it was different. Because Carter wasn't just another man. He was the person with absolute power over Marcus's life. Inmates gather in the cafeteria, shouting, fighting. "Fight!" the guard yells, running away. Marcus has 5 precious minutes. He approaches Carter's office door, his heart pounding. He listens, then looks through the gap in the curtain. Over the next week, Marcus made plans. He was no longer looking for truth. He was looking for an opportunity. With Dominic's reluctant help, he arranged a fake fight in the cafeteria at exactly the time Alicia had an appointment with Carter. The plan was to create enough chaos to distract the guards, allowing him to sneak to the administration wing for the confrontation he had set in his mind. "This wasn't a good plan," Dominic explains. "I tried to tell him, but by that point, Marcus wasn't listening to advice from anyone anymore." When he finally has the evidence, Marcus staggers back, his hands shaking. Just then, he hears the alarm. A stage fight in the cafeteria, the final part of the plan, has spiraled out of control. Screams echo throughout the prison. The stage fight quickly got out of hand. What started as a small argument turned into a minor riot as inmates from different factions joined in. "That's the level of tension in prison," Dominic explains. "People are just waiting for a reason to explode. Our fight became the spark." "One more lie," Marcus says, standing in a private visitation room with Alicia a week later. "One more lie and I'll—" He can't continue. Carter walks in a victorious smile on his face. Mrs. Dayton visitation time is over. Something breaks inside Marcus. A week later, Marcus requests an emergency visit with his wife. Such requests typically take weeks to process, but surprisingly, he was informed just 3 days later that his request had been approved. The visit didn't take place in the common visitation room as usual. Instead, Marcus was led to a small room in the administration wing, with the reason being discussion of sensitive family matters. This was a rare privilege that only Carter could approve. It was an obvious trap, Dominic recounts. Carter wanted Marcus to confront Alicia in a place where he could control. He wanted to witness Marcus's complete breakdown. Alicia was already sitting when Marcus entered the small room. She looked anxious, even somewhat afraid. Marcus looked at her, the woman he had loved enough to sacrifice his freedom for, and saw a stranger. "What do you need from me, Marcus?" Alicia asks quietly. "I don't understand why you wanted to meet so urgently." "The truth," Marcus replies, trying to control his voice. "Just once, can you give me the truth?" Before Alicia can answer, the door opens. Carter walks in, slamming the door shut. As Carter begins to taunt him, Marcus can see a flash of fear and regret in Alicia's eyes before she quickly hides it behind a cold expression. That look shows she knows she's gone too far and can't turn back, but she's not completely cold-blooded. "I think we need a family conversation," he says, a provocative smile on his face. "I've given you two some privacy. How generous of me, don't you think?" Blood spreads across the floor of the small room. Two bodies lie motionless. Guard Malik stands frozen. His gun still aimed at Marcus, who kneels, hands covered in blood. "I just wanted to talk," he whispers. "I didn't mean to kill her." What happened next remains a subject of debate. According to Marcus's testimony, Carter began to provoke him, describing in detail his relationship with Alicia and their future plans. "She's divorcing you," Carter sneered. "She and the boy, your son, will be living in my lake house. You'll just be a fading memory." Marcus pulled the makeshift weapon from his pant cuff. According to his later testimony, he only intended to threaten Carter, force him to confess in front of Alicia that he had exploited many other inmates in similar ways. Instead, Carter lunged at Marcus. In the struggle, the blade plunged into Carter's neck. Alicia screamed and ran toward the door. Marcus, blind with rage and betrayal, turned and stabbed her. Guard Malik, hearing the screams, broke down the door. He found Marcus kneeling, hands covered in blood between two bodies. Detective Jake Holloway looks into the camera, his expression serious. The Riverdale case could have ended right there, a jealousy-fueled double homicide, but my K9 partner Shadow wouldn't stop barking at a wall in Carter's office. Behind that wall, investigators found a secret archive evidence that Carter had blackmailed and abused the wives of at least 14 inmates over the past decade. He secretly recorded the meetings and used them to ensure the victim's silence. Carter wasn't an opportunist, Holloway explains. He had a system. He looked for inmates with young, attractive wives who were financially vulnerable. He ensured they couldn't access regular support programs, then appeared as a savior. Dominic nods sadly. The system was designed to create desperation. Most people don't realize how little money inmates actually earn. Most don't know how severely families are affected. Carter understood that and knew how to exploit it. Holloway places a thick file on the table. We identified at least 27 cases over the past 15 years. Some women were coerced, some participated out of desperation. Some, like Alicia, eventually became accomplices. But all were victims of a broken system. Marcus Dayton's tragedy led to the exposure of one of the biggest scandals in America's private prison system. Correct Life Inc. lost its contract to operate Riverdale and 5 other facilities. 6 guards and 2 senior managers were charged. Anger blinds us. Dominic gains. The only prison friend who visits Marcus comments. When Marcus discovered the truth, he lost the ability to see any solution besides violence. And ultimately, he became what he always tried to avoid, a victim of the very system that trapped him from the beginning. Marcus Dayton's story isn't just a personal tragedy. It's an indictment of a system that pushes people to desperation, an unjust justice system, and a corrupt prison system that commodifies human beings. Marcus is currently serving a life sentence without parole at a maximum security facility. He refuses all interviews, speaking only to Dominic. His son, Isaiah, now lives with his grandmother, unaware of his parents' fate. When we face injustice, Holloway concludes, sometimes restraint is the most courageous act. Violence, though understandable, rarely brings true justice. It only creates more victims and continues the cycle of hatred and suffering. This is Alexandra Reynolds reporting for Crime and Justice Files.